Hey there friends and enemies, JoPaWrites here again, and today I want to showcase one of the wildest builds I've ever seen in Remnant 2. This thing is absolutely insane. It doesn't have the highest DPS in the game, I'm going to give you that as a fair warning, but what it replaces with that is maximum survivability. You can tank any damage in the game, it's that crazy, and an infinite turret, which is always a lot of fun. So you're not even going to be shooting your weapons with this build either, and that is really funny to me. So that's why I wanted to test this out, see how it works, and it's absolutely wild. So if you're a player who struggles with different types of content, maybe you're on apocalypse difficulty, there's certain bosses with those modifiers that you just can't get past, this is going to be the build for you that you're going to want to check out. And even if it takes you a little bit longer, it's better to beat that and move on instead of just banging your head against a wall and struggling for a long time. Anyway, jumping into the build, let's talk about what we have. This is called High Tech Pioneer, combining the Engineer and the Explorer. I am using the Heavy Weapon Vulcan for my standard turret, as well as the Gold Digger. This will provide a series of buffs, and I can use this over and over and over again, no matter what I'm doing. One of the main important things for this is going to be the Surplus Relic perk, because I'm going to be refilling my heavy weapon ammo constantly, and then obviously high tech so I can overclock my weapon as often as possible for infinite ammo, increased fire rate, and then increased damage as well. There's some other benefits to these different perks as well that make this build really shine. As far as what I'm running, I wanted to run a medium set of armor. You can run a light set of armor. It really doesn't matter. You're so tanky with some of the combination that I'm running that armor is unnecessary to a degree. You might make a mistake in your rotation, so you want some armor on, but it's really not that vital. And if you want to, you can swap this to a heavier armor and it'll still work just fine. Now, as far as the relic, I'm running the Bloodless Heart with the innate 50% use speed bonus. On use grants a shield that prevents nearly all damage for 3 seconds. This is not really useful. It doesn't last long enough in most cases, but for this build, it is super effective. Now, I'm running skill duration, mod cost, and mod duration. The reason for both of those is I want to try to spam my mods as often as possible. I'm not really shooting my guns. I am using Sandstorm whenever I can to make the targets exposed so they take additional damage. Then we've also got the Death Brand on the Corrupted Rune Pistol. Again, increase my damage as much as possible. So that's very important. As far as the rest of what I'm running, this is where the importance of the combination is absolutely vital. So the emergency switch, when health is below 50%, chance to consume relic is reduced by 50%. So essentially you're 50-50 on whether you use a relic or not, but you combine that with the conservation seal, the restriction cord, and you actually are never going to use your relic charges while also remaining at 50% health at all times. That's what's going to allow you to consistently use your relics. And you'll see in the gameplay, I never change the amount of relics that I'm holding. I can consistently use them. And essentially, at certain points, just spam my relic over and over and over again to get more ammo for my turret, while also staying alive because I have that invincibility shield. So it just is absolutely insane, and you can just use it over and over. The only issue you run into is if you try to do too much at a given time. Say you try to use your Explorer skill and a mod and this and that, and you try to overclock your turret, and then that's when you're going to use your relic. It might be too late, and if you get hit once there, you die. But as long as you're spamming your relic, using it after every skill cast or mod cast or whatever, you're going to stay alive just fine. Now, these two are flexible, but I am running Burden of the Destroyer for all damage down increased by 15%. Since I'm not shooting my firearms, the negative effect doesn't really matter. And then Crimson Dreamstone. Critical hits reduce skill damage by 2% for 5 seconds, max of 10 seconds. This is going to enhance my skill damage quite a bit because of how consistently you can get critical hits. As far as the gameplay loop, it's fairly simple. Pop your relic, drop your turret. Pop your relic, use Sandstorm. Pop your relic, use your Death Brand, pop your relic, and then start using your Explorer skills while you're consistently popping your relic. It is a little bit annoying on some of the longer boss fights if you have another build that can clear it faster, But what I've found is oftentimes the thing that takes the longest in this game is you, your teammates, whoever it may be, consistently dying over and over again. You got to restart the boss fight. It can be really frustrating. There are other builds, again, that can clear all of this much faster. So if you're a player who absolutely breezes through Apocalypse difficulty, this build might not be as much fun. But as somebody who has really enjoyed turret play in this game, who also wants to have a build that I don't really have to think about, I just essentially do the same thing pretty consistently, this is going to be the type of build that is really, really effective and can clear, again, any content in the game. While you're just randomly patrolling the overworld, it's not going to be as effective because you essentially have to pick up your turret, carry it to the next location, put it down, pop a relic, pick up your turret, go after you defeat the enemies, pick up your turret and go to the next spot. So that can be a little more frustrating as well. This is mainly used if you are struggling to beat a boss, abomination, aberration, whatever the case may be, and that's where this build is really going to come in handy, especially if you struggle against any of them at any given time. It's one of those things too that I've found very, very fascinating because I feel like there's a lot of builds that are niche that can be used in certain situations. But if you have like a waves of enemies, this build is also pretty good as well because your turret will mow them down fairly quickly. And so you can kind of use it for any type of situation where you're sitting in one spot, defending an area, or in a boss zone, and you're able to kill them over the course of time. Again, the gameplay looks hilarious to me. It's one of those builds that might be more of a meme more than anything. I think it's not something that I will always run consistently. And in general, I have other things that are better for most content in the game. But I figured I would share because I feel like this is definitely one of those builds that a certain section of the player base will find useful and be able to run and allow them to beat all the different bosses. Say they haven't cleared Apocalypse difficulty yet, they have been absolutely struggling with the final boss, just cannot beat it. This might be the thing that puts them over the top and helps them, and that's really what I make builds for. There are certain players, if you're a top tier player who has your build set, who has the most meta stuff, you probably don't need these build guides, to be honest. You can tinker, you can make your own builds, you're probably a good enough player that you can run whatever you want, and it doesn't matter as much. Whereas there's a lot of players who could use the help, and with how long the game's been out, I hope more people are able to enjoy, clear the game, get the best loot, all that kind of good stuff. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Helps me out tremendously, shows you want to see more Remnant 2 content. I hope you enjoyed this little different take on a build video. My name is JoPa. Have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.